Today's guest, a fellow Brooklynite, shares my
Yeah,
hometown and a little bit of the spiritual journey of awakening from living a certain lifestyle to actually opening up to spirit, making a
yeah,
deep
big time.
making a deeper connection with the universe in terms of knowing that there's more than meets the eye and encountering different beings in our lives. Sometimes people see them, sometimes people don't see them. But one thing we can ascertain is the fact that we are supported by people on the other side. And
Yeah,
today's guest, Frank Milazzo, had some experiences that opened him up to his connection to the spirit realm.
yeah.
With two NDEs, but in terms of one of them, we'll discuss that he remembers. Maybe you could take the audience a little bit back to that time when you had the first ND and how old you were.
I was 7 years old. I lived in Coney Island. I lived a block from Steeplechase, if anybody knows about Steeplechase. The parachute jump back in the day, in the 60s. Well, I was born in 62. Anyway, so I was 7 years old. I was upstairs eating lunch. My mother was old school Italian mother, and my house was open to all my friends. Lunch she would make, and even as I got older, she was still the same. But okay, so we're in my house, we're eating lunch, and I finished first. And I said to her, I'm gonna go downstairs and play. And she said, Frankie boy, wait for your friends. I said, no, ma, I want to go out and play. So, I'm gonna go down. So I went down and I was playing jacks. I'm 7 years old. I'm playing jacks. And the ball went across the street. So where I lived on 17th Street is a two-way street. And so the ball went across the street. And I remember when I went to court, they said that my heels were against the curb when I bent over. And drunk driver came down
Wow.
and he hit me like dead in the head. When I was bent over, he hit me that way. So he knocked me like up in the air and down the street. And what he said in court was his foot slipped off the brake and went back on the gas. But as I got older, I always thought the guy was trying to get away. But when he knocked me down the street, when I came down, he ran me over again. And this time I went under the car. He dragged me. I guess I came out, and so ambulance came. They put me in my everybody was out. It was a summer day, so ambulance came. They put me in the ambulance. I had a severe brain injury. I was bleeding on the brain. Uh, I died in the ambulance. They pronounced me dead. They would take me, but miraculously, I started bleeding out of one of my ears, and I don't remember which ear, but out of one of my ears. So it relieved the pressure in my brain. And when they were working on me, so I came back. So they took me to the hospital, and doctors told my mother the brain injury was so severe. I didn't wake up for like a while. And I didn't remember who my parents were when I woke up. I didn't recognize
Wow.
them. And when I did wake up, well, the doctors told my mother when your son wakes up, not going to be the same, not going to be the same little boy that you had when before this happened. He's going to be challenged, mentally challenged, and stuff like that. The funny thing was, I woke up, I was fine. I was hurt, of course, but I was fine. There was nothing. I had to heal from that brain injury. Went home. When I got in school, when I got back to school, uh, I had this thirst. Like I was only in second grade then, and I don't remember if I even went back to school during the second grade. I remember teachers coming to the house, coming to because I went to Catholic school. So teachers coming to the house and bringing me work and visiting me, making sure I was okay. But yeah, I think I did go back to school. I went back in the third grade, but when I did get back to school, I had this thirst for knowledge. I just wanted to learn as much as I could. I wanted to read as much as I could. It was just an unreal thirst for knowledge, that I had.
Did you recognize it at that point that, or you as you got older you recognized, went back and said that you saw yourself looking for the knowledge?
No,
Did you think everybody was looking for knowledge at that time as well?
no, because I was in the book club, and we would order books. They put a list on the wall,
Yep.
And I would order like 15 books, you know, my mother would pay for them, of course. And I would stay up all night and day. My mother would come out, Frankie boy, you gotta go to sleep. Not now, Ma, I gotta read, you know. All I wanted to do was read. And they weren't children. It wasn't like Dr. Seuss books or anything like that, you know. Yeah, they were books, you know, like not stories. And I remember one in particular was about a race car driver. I don't know why I remember that. It was about a young guy who was a race car driver, you know. I remember that book. I don't know why. But no, because I was always like, I think they had like some kind of contest in the class or whatever. And I was always like number one, you know, like, oh, Frankie Milazzo read the most books, you know,
Wow,
this
wow.
month. It was like that every month, you know. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was. And that followed me on in the years, you know, to be good in school because I wound up skipping 2 grades in school. Uh, I skipped the 6th grade. I went to a special class called 7SP we had in where I went to school in junior high. And in that class, we did 7th and 8th grade in one year. And then I got to 9th grade. And I believe I skipped 10th grade. I graduated high school at 15. So,
Wow.
you know, if that gives you an idea,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting because, you speak about your first NDE, and I interview many people, and the people who I interview, for the
Yeah.
most part, share the same type of story as what you're explaining, which is when they're younger,
Yeah.
around five through seven, in that age range, they've had a
Yeah.
near-death experience where they
Yeah.
didn't recall it being a near-death experience. They were pronounced dead at a specific incidents, like you said. And then
Right.
there was an impetus for the second near-death experience that took place later in their life. And with
Yeah.
that second NDE, then they recalled the first one, and they were able to then correlate that there was a death experience. In your
Well,
case,
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say, in your case, you had another NDE when you were, I think, in your 20s, correct?
21.
All
Yeah.
right, maybe you
And
could.
I
Yeah.
and I think from the first NDE, I gained the ability to I think I was blessed with the ability to like see spirits, you know, because you want me to get into the second one?
Well, I think you might have mentioned a little bit. Let's first talk about your grandfather. Didn't something happen to your
That's
grandfather?
yeah. Well, I'm gonna get. That's what I want to go to say that I think the first when I died the first time gave me the ability to see, you know, certain things that other people can't see. So, oh, I was 17. So that's before that I was 21. 17, and my grandfather was dying of emphysema, and so my aunt had brought him home from the hospital, so he would die in the house. You know, we were close family, Italian family, and so he was upstairs in the den. We get the call. My mother gets the call, and I'm sleeping, and my aunt, her sister, tells her he's not going to make it through the night. You know, he was bad. My mother wakes me up, and of course, we went right there. We drove. We lived in Brooklyn. They lived in Staten Island. You know about where that is. So we drove across the bridge. We get there. We go upstairs, and my grandfather's in the den on a couch. They had him laying on a couch, and my grandmother was up there, my uncle, and they had left the room. It was just me and my mother. So she sat on the couch. I sat on a chair. Uh, there was a small room, so maybe 5 feet away from him, in the chair, right across from him. So I'm looking at him. My mother's talking to him, and all of a sudden, he says to my mother, "Rosalie, I'm so tired." I'll never forget those words because I remember my mother telling him, "Daddy, rest." You know. So as soon as she said those words, his mouth dropped open. He had his top dentures in; they fell down. So we knew he had passed. But when this happened, I seen a wisp of like smoke raise from his like torso, and there was an open window behind it, and it just shot right out the window.
Wow, wow, wow.
So I'm like, what did I just see? You know, so of course my mother's sitting right there. So I said, "Ma, did you see that?" And she said to me, "What, Frankie boy?" And I guess I didn't want to I scare her, or I thought maybe she wouldn't believe me. So I said nothing, you know. So, and I never repeated that to anybody, you know. Like later on, I told my mother, of course, you know. So I believe that was the connection to my grandfather, the spiritual connection, seeing his soul or his spirit rise out of him. For
Unbelievable.
yeah, that was unbelievable. It really was. You know.
When you had the experience, it's when you were looking at it and you didn't want to tell anybody. What, do you
Right.
remember what you felt like that evening when you were in your room or thinking about the situation? Like, how did you comprehend this?
I was trying to process it because I'm trying to think, why did I see that? You know, like uh I started thinking back to the first time I died, like thinking there's something happened when I died that made me uh well, I can't find the right thinking I'm trying to think of the right word. Made me able, I'll use able. I know that's not, I mean, that's the right word, but it's not the word I want to use. But maybe able to see that, you know, because I mean, it happened so fast. It just came right, the minute his mouth dropped open, it just came right out of him, and the window was open behind him and just flew right out the window. And I'm staring in disbelief. I'm like, what did I just see? Is this possible that I seen that? You know? And I had to ask my mother because she was sitting right there. The window was like a foot away from her. And she was sitting right by his body, you know.
Yeah,
Strange.
yeah. So many people have experiences of seeing spirit without having NDEs.
Really?
They have a higher consciousness of, looking out the periphery of their eye and seeing,
Yeah.
different types of shadows or different types of movements. And
Yeah.
I know as you from your experience, you have having the NDE, maybe you
Yeah.
didn't recall having gone to a certain place or, being contacted by anyone specifically, but I know the energy
Yeah.
shift takes place in a near death experience.
Right.
When you saw the vapor, this, I guess it was the soul leaving the body, as we
I
could
guess.
understand it. Was it a
Right.
specific color?
Yeah, this is what really freaks me out because I told my brother and he says, what? It was black. Why was it black? I always think like my grandfather wasn't a bad person, you know. I mean, he raised four daughters. They, became mothers. They raised their children right. They went to work, good families. My grandfather was a hard worker. He was a master carpenter. So I was saying like, why was it? Because I'm on a site on Facebook and the NDE, near the experience, and I read people saying they seen this, but it
Right.
was white. It was white. They say.
Yeah.
So like, why was my grandfather's black? I don't understand that.
Well, I guess the interpretation of understanding it wasn't something for you to figure out or take on, but it was
Right,
more something for you to see in terms of the experience itself, which is what you
right,
got out of it, or maybe the ability to see things that nobody else could see, or maybe not know.
right, right.
So
Because
that's an interest.
I hope someone could help me understand that out there because that's bothered me throughout my whole life.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
In terms of myself understanding the interpretation of it, I probably wouldn't be able to, but I would understand the fact that you're able to see that is a interesting concept for people to first understand. In I do shamanic work, uh,
okay,
and in terms of shamanic work, from my understanding, reading people who've seen spirit pass on. In other
right,
words, in the shamanic traditions, they don't really want to encompass the soul in the body, like for the last rites, and close the
right,
soul in. They want the
right,
soul to breathe, in other words, leave.
right.
So in
So
shamanic traditions, they let the soul leave through the crown chakra, the top of the head, like you have
okay,
seen it leave the upper torso. In
right,
shamanic, they try to bring the soul up to the highest point and then release it
right,
from the crown. I said to you before, who I speak to share an experience like you have had. The difference is,
right.
is that many people don't have anyone to share this with or speak the subject with.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right. So thankfully, I think as we're evolving as a group of people, specifically people like yourself, who are able to open up and share these experiences, and people like myself are able to then listen to it, hear it, and compare it to other people's stories. I think
Right.
your story is not unique in so far as the people who've gone through what you've gone through share the same type of story itself, which is interesting.
But Adam, why was it black? That always bothered, like, because I read other people's stories, like on the side I am, and I've been exploring it, you know, in like on YouTube or in books. Like I'm trying to expand my spirituality because it's been exploding, unbelievable the last few months to the point where like sometimes I understand the signs, like what whoever the universe is trying to send me, or I believe it's God. I'm not going to say the
Absolutely.
universe because I believe it's God. So, and the last 3 days, the signs were so unbelievable. I mean, I got so many signs, and I pray at night, or I come out. I got insomnia, so I'm out here like I come out 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, because if I get 2, 3 hours sleep, I'm good. I go on with my day, So that's just me. But
I was thinking for a second, you said something to me. So maybe the interpretation that I receive is the level that you were at that
yeah,
moment your grandfather passed, in terms of your
right,
being scared and fearful,
right,
could have been your own darkness of the fear that you had. As we're in a state of fear in terms of seeing somebody pass on, and not
right,
understanding the concept of what was the fear itself.
right.
We displace our own emotions on other people and situations. So the fear in
Okay,
us could be displaced on someone else. And that
okay,
moment could have been a dark moment for you, seeing the energy
okay,
of him coming
right.
through, of him leaving.
Oh, that helps me understand. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's my
You know.
interpretation. And
Okay. Well, you know better than me because I don't. I mean, I'm just learning. Just experiencing all this. So this is new to me.
I
Like every day is new to me. So
Yeah, but I think the fact that somebody who's outside of your situation, myself, someone else, would be able to see things from maybe an easier perspective, as opposed to being involved in a situation where emotions are involved, like yourself, specifically
right,
at that time. And you,
right.
as you went through this particular experience, you then had an NDE in your 20s. Maybe you want to
I did. I
share
did.
that one.
Okay. So when I was 21, I was me and my friend's father started his son working in Manhattan, got him a job at a messenger service. A service in the messenger service serviced all the paper companies in Lower Manhattan that got unbinded paper and then boxed it up or put it together, whatever they did, and then they sent it to the magazine companies or wherever. And we were the company. We were the company that picked up the paper and brought it wherever it had to go. So we all followed in this because this kid was making great like 800 a month in the 80s. Who heard of that? So we all, we all go like, okay, we all got bands. There were like 6 of us, and we started working. And
Right.
his father got us the job at this particular company. So I get a call, go to Lake Success. I get a job. So I make the pickup. I go to Lake Success, which I believe you might know better than me. Lake Success is right above Queens, right?
Yeah, Long Island, sort of, right? Right, Long
Yeah,
Island,
yeah,
Queens.
yeah. About just a little bit past Queens.
Right.
I make the delivery. Uh, no problems. I just bought a 1980. I had a 77 Dodge van, which when my friend's father bought a new van, they gave me that van. I had to pay them, of course, as I made the money. And anyway, so 1983 rolls around. I buy a brand new 1983 Dodge van. I had 3 months. So I go make the pickup. I make delivery. Coming back now. I'm on the Long Island Expressway. The part of the roadway where I was going, now I cross over into Queens. The part of the roadway that I was going over was newly paved, new barriers. What are they called? They don't call that barriers. Dividers. What am I talking about? So yeah, so new dividers, new sewers, new sewer covers, new roadway. There was a sewer that I don't know if a machine went over it. Like I don't know how this happened, but the cover was pushed up against the divider, which left a hole in it. So now I'm coming 75 miles an hour, 21 years old. I don't care about speed limits. I mean, so I want to get back to Manhattan, because I want to get more work. So I'm coming. I hit the sewer. rips the wheel right off my van.
Oh, wow.
My van then smashes into the divider, which the impact from, going that fast pushes the whole front of it was like from the left side almost to the right side, pushes the whole front underneath the chassis,
Wow.
which crushes my leg, my left leg. Uh, my face hits the steering wheel. Funny thing, when let me finish the story. My face hits the steering wheel. My whole face gets split in half, right down the middle. My from the bridge of my nose down, my upper lip split in half, my teeth knocked out. I had hand trucks and dollars in the back. That all came forward, hit me in the back of the head. I had two big holes in the back of my head. Anyway, so and then the van rode the divider. I'd say because me and my friend went to the highway, and we found it. And we found this. We knew it was the spot because we seen my paint along the divider. Because when my van rode the divider, left a long line of paint across the divider. So I knew it was the spot, and I seen the sewer, so I knew. Uh, okay, so everything that my van rolls over and slides down the highway. So the only way to get me out of the van when they did come was to take me out. They had to break the windshield and take me out to the windshield. So they take me to the hospital, and I got robbed. Well, I was like that, believe it or not. Whoever was first on the scene, I had a gold chain around my neck and money in my pocket. They robbed me. So whoever was first on the scene robbed me. First responders or tow truck driver, whoever did it, did it. So I get to the hospital, and I'm in a coma. And I died while I'm in the coma. So I wake up. I didn't know. I mean, you don't know. You don't know you die. So I wake up in this room, in this dark room, uh, pitch black. It's a jukebox in front, and I look down, and there's like fog covering my feet, and I'm saying, where am I? Like, you know, I knew where I was, and I'll tell you why after I finish telling you what happened. But I recognized the room I was in, but I was like, how did I get here? And the jukebox that was in front of me, I'll tell you about the room. I remember the room because there was a jukebox that I used to play all the time, but it was a different jukebox. So I was like, why is this world a jukebox in front of me? And so I'm in this room, and I'm like, where am I? Like, I feel no pain. I'm at peace. I am at peace, but I am a little afraid, not afraid, but like mystified, like where am. Anyway, so then I feel an arm come around my shoulder, and I look to my left, and it's my grandfather. And before I could say anything to him, he says to me, Frankie boy, you got to go back. It's not your time. We're not ready for you yet. And when and like I wanted to ask, like, Grandpa, where am I? I went to, and what are you doing here? I saw you die.
Yeah, yeah.
But I tell, and then I wake up in the hospital.
Yeah, where exactly were you in that room? Where was that jukebox that you saw?
When we were kids, you're from Brooklyn, you know this. Uh, Different neighborhoods. You got a group of kids went to school together, hung out together at night growing up, right? So on the corner. Where'd you hang out on the corner? And we weren't doing nothing wrong. We were good kids. There was a bar across the street owned by an an older couple. So in the winter, one winter, they got the guy uh, calls us over, and he says, "Listen, we have the back room where the jukebox is, the pinball machine, shuffleboard machine, little table. So you just can hang out back there." And then the bar was like in the front. He says, you just can't drink, of course. We're kids, 15, 16.
Right, right, right.
But you could come back there and stay warm because it was cold. And, that's what we did. And that was that back room that I woke up in. And the jukebox where I don't know how much money I threw in, but, it was old. we were 15, 16, so that was that 1977, you know, and you know the music from back then. But in the
Saturday Night
jukebox
Fever.
was, yeah, but in the jukebox was Frank Sinatra, D. and that, I love that music. So I was playing like uh, Little Suit Running Around Sue, you know. So when I but the jukebox was a world juke, so I'm saying, where's the jukebox? You know, why is it a different jukebox? Because I knew it was the room, but I didn't know the jukebox.
Was your did your grandfather visit that bar or restaurant or
Never, no, never.
never?
He was. This was '83. I mean, never. He was never even that. He used to come to our house on that a couple blocks away. You know,
Right.
visit my mother with my grandfather with my grandmother. But he was not. My grandfather wasn't a drinker, and like he didn't know what neighborhood I hung out in.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know,
So what now this after this experience that you had, how long did it take you, first of all, to assimilate it or to share this with someone? And when did you share this?
well, let me tell you. Let me tell you what happened when I woke up in the hospital. So, uh, I wake up in the hospital. I'm in this room. There's a nurse. I remember this clearly. First thing I did when I woke up was feel for my leg because I couldn't feel my left leg because that's the leg that was crushed. So I didn't even look. I was afraid to look. I just felt down with my hands and sure, and I felt the cast. So I said, all right, I got my leg. But there was a nurse. She had me leaning over like this and she's washing my back. So I must have mumbled or whatever. I don't remember. And she started screaming, he's awake, he's awake. And yeah, and so she put me back down and she ran away like she left, you know. So I guess like a head nurse or something, young, but she was a young, you know, a younger woman, 30s, 40s. She came up to me, she was like, Frank, I was like, where am I? You know, like, what am I doing here? You know? And she goes, Frank, you know, you were in a bad car accident. She said, you're in the Queens Elmhurst Hospital. She said, you know, she's telling me, how do you feel? I'm not feeling, I'm at peace. I'm not panicking. I'm at peace. That's all I remember. I was like, I didn't panic. Like, you know, you wake up in a hospital, you don't know where you are. You're like, you're going to panic. You know, and your face is all broken. I felt my face. You know, your leg is crushed. You're going to panic. I wasn't panicking. I was at peace. So the first thing I said to her was, you know me, I got to flirt with everybody. I said, do you, I said, Brooklyn guy, you know us, Adam. So I said to her, do you have a mirror? So she says, I said, I want to see my face. She goes, you don't want to see your face, Frank. She goes, it's full of stitches, you know, you're all busted up. I said, no, please. I said, I got you. So she went, she got you know, those little brown makeup mirrors women carry. She went, she got one of those. I took it, opened it up. She goes, oh, your nose is all swollen. Don't get scared. So, this ain't my nose. My nose was done over because it was all busted, it was broken open, it was all busted up. But when I was younger, I had a big nose of a tank. You know what I'm saying? So when I looked in the mirror, I looked at my nose. I started laughing. I actually started laughing. I just woke up from being dead. I started
Oh,
laughing. I said to her, nah, there's nothing wrong with my nose. It's always been this big. And me and her started laughing, you know. So she goes, I can't believe you're making jokes, you know. I said, what am I gonna do? You know, it is what it is. I
yeah.
don't know, you know. I
Yeah, well, it's what's interesting is the fact that, you know, in this life we take things so seriously.
yeah,
We look at things in a materialistic way on what we have on the
yeah,
outside world, the car we drive, the house, the
yeah,
size of the house, you know,
yeah,
all the things, keeping the grass green to, you know, to outdo the neighbor or to whatever it is. And
yeah,
rarely
right,
do we take the time to really work on the inside work. And
right,
you were given the opportunity through these experiences to be able to expand your consciousness uh,
exactly,
in this life. And you know, many people may be familiar, not familiar, that we choose the life we're going to lead in terms of what we're going to experience in a lifetime for our soul's
right,
expansion. The
right,
parents we pick, they,
yeah,
the interactions and everything else. And you were
yeah,
given this this feeling where you could have been a victim of circumstances, where you could have looked down upon life. And yet
Yeah,
here you are in this position where you had these experiences, seeing your grandfather pass through the veil, his soul leaving
yeah,
his body, questioning
yeah,
life. And then
yeah,
another experience where you're faced with your own vanity,
yeah, definitely.
and you know more that you're more than your body.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what was some of the things that you experienced in a talk that you went through after these experiences that you were able to communicate with yourself?
Uh, you know, after that, well, first thing when I got up to the room, my family was up there. My mother, her three sisters, and one of my uncles. And I must have they gave me a shot of morphine because I was in pain. Down. Oh, she told me we're in the. She said we have you in the room. You know, you died. We're getting ready to transport you to the morgue. We're washing your body because you know you get yes because we're getting ready to send you to the morgue. And to me, I'm like, I ain't going to the morgue. Sorry, I just didn't take it. I I don't sweat the small things, and I didn't sweat them back then either. You know, so I thought about that. Like I think about it a lot now. Like, you died. They're ready to transport you. Now it's coming to me like more than ever, and I'll share that. Why would you? But anyway, so I get up to the room, and first thing out of my mouth when I wake up was my uncle was standing there. I said to my uncle, I seen Grandpa. He sent me back. And my uncle right away says, "Oh, you were dreaming." That's what he said, and he shook it off. And in my head, I'm thinking, I wasn't dreaming. I was dead. How could I be dreaming? Why are you telling me that? So I didn't believe, and like I wasn't buying that from him. He wasn't going to tell me what I remembered and what I felt during that experience. No one was changing my mind about what I went through. No one. And I've run into some skepticism since then, and people like, "Oh, come on, no, you're not telling me anything. I know what I went through. I know what I felt at that time. I know I see my grandfather. I know he sent me back. So no one's telling me anything. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
very interesting. Um,
yeah,
people scoff at maybe reincarnation and the soul itself. You people go to Catholic school, they go to other schools of religion, and some
yeah,
of the schools, you learn about the soul, and
yeah,
you learn that it's an entity within inside yourself in terms of positively, in terms of your body's housing the soul itself to give
yeah,
it an experience. And
yeah.
you
I'm,
had
I'm, I'll tell, I'm going to tell you about that. What I believe. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say that the our body is like the car that drives around with us inside of the car, or the engine is the soul, which gets the car moving.
Can I tell?
And
Can I? Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I want to hear.
So I'm sitting outside. I did a podcast. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. But before the podcast, I'm sitting outside where I was sitting before, and this thought just comes to me, like Frank, the human body is temporary. It's just a shell that holds our soul. It's not meant to last forever. You know, uh, People blame God when they get sick or when something happens. Adam, I got sick 2 years ago. I lost my stomach. I had to take my whole stomach out. I didn't blame God, because it's the body is going to get sick. It happens. Why blame God? He's got nothing to do with that. He's your spiritual. He's with you spiritually. He'll take you through the storm. But he's got nothing to do with your body. That's just the shit. Things are gonna go wrong. That's what I believe.
Yeah, you're right. I believe that the body is recyclable.
Yeah,
The soul,
exactly.
the soul is recyclable in the sense that each experience we have on this plane gives the soul an experience to grow.
Right,
And so
right,
sometimes we're faced with adversities and we're faced with difficult people to actually
right.
enhance our soul's growth.
So we grow. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that thought came to. It just came to me. I started thinking. I was like, that's like wherever that thought came from. I was like, that's right. You know,
Yeah,
this is just temp.
It's funny because growing up in Brooklyn, as you know, and I know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
faced with, being not more masculine, but showing a side of yourself that helps you survive, so to speak.
exactly. You know
And
that.
and with inside of ourselves, each person has their own course of destiny of what they're supposed to fulfill and what they're supposed to go through. Sometimes we
Right,
get caught up with people who not only don't have our best interests in mind, but don't really
right,
know how to uh, don't know how to deal with their own sensitivities that they have within themselves. And so
right,
when we become individuals, when we find our own path as an individual, that's when we're in our
right.
strength, I believe. And I think you
Yeah.
were in your strength with your story of going through these experiences to share with other people like you're doing, and to have people scoff or have skepticism so that you can keep going in believing what you did believe. I,
No
wa-
one's gonna change my mind, Adam. No one.
yeah,
Believe me.
I wanted to ask you, in that place that you are, with the at the second NDE, and you saw your grandfather. Many people, when they speak about near-death experiences, they share the fact that it's sometimes more real than this world or this experience. Did it feel real to you? What was it? What was the atmosphere like?
You mean when I was in that room
Yes, with your grandfather.
with my? Oh, it felt real. I thought like uh wherever I was, you know, it felt. I was like, why am I here? Like I felt like, okay, I'm supposed to walk. Am I supposed to walk around? Am I supposed to move away from this jukebox? Like I'm wondering why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And as I'm having these thoughts, my grandfather, like, there was a doorway in that back room, in that room that led to the kitchen where they used to prepare food, to serve at the bar. So I'm like, do I go in the kitchen? Like, am I supposed to go in the kitchen? Like, it definitely felt real. And then my grandfather came to me, like as I was having those thoughts. But yeah, it felt real. It did.
How old was your grandfather? If you in that moment, did he seem younger or
My
did he
grand
see?
my grandfather was, I believe, in his 70s when he passed. When he came to me, he was in his 50s. He was a young, and I have I have a picture of my grandfather on my phone, and he's buffed. He's like, I'm like, look at my grandfather. I'm so proud of that picture.
Be it that you've had these experiences, sometimes different people cross our path that have the similar experiences. Have you ever met anybody like this?
I had this girl. She had an NDE. She wrote a book about it, and the way I met her was like she was. I was supposed to meet her, like God brought her to me, and she was my spiritual advisor. She had an out of body and experience NDE. I believe when she was in her 20s or early 30s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so uh, I'm on Facebook, and I post a lot about God, and I post it to show him my gratitude, that I'm not ashamed of him, and that I will never deny him, and I don't care. Like you could delete me if you think I don't care, because I'm gonna show him that I appreciate what he did for me by bringing me back, by me dying twice and him bringing me back. I mean, like, that's my beliefs, and I don't push my beliefs on anybody. I'm not a preacher. If you don't believe, that's fine with me. Uh, my beliefs are for me. They're not for anybody else. I don't try to push my beliefs on anybody. I'm not like, that's not my job to make you believe what I believe,
Right,
you
right,
know.
right.
So, I'm not saying that I post constantly. Like I'll post something in the morning, like that. He'll bring you into the storm, but he'll take you out of it too. And I know because I've been in some storms, and when I felt like I was alone, I knew he was carrying me, because that's how it is. When
Yeah.
you feel like you're alone, he's carrying you. You're not alone. That's my belief anyway.
A lot of times people hear the expression, or you might have heard the expression, we're all walking each other home.
Right,
When you look at the life as not uh, infinite, that we know we pass on and we go on, and in your
right,
circumstances, like other people, you've passed on and come back again into your body. You
right,
proof that life does go on.
Yeah.
right? And the fact that
Yeah.
we can meet people who can assist us on this path, who are on
Yeah.
the same frequency or level of consciousness that we are, and walking us to the same place.
I know, learning about my spirit. I'm trying to grow. And if she's like, she would tell me something, like I was in a situation where I wanted to react in a different way. And she would tell me, that's not the way, if you want to grow, that's not the way to react.
Right.
So what I did was I flipped it and I accepted the situation I was in. And I accepted the person that was giving me the hard time. And I spoke to them and I like kind of gave in to them and said, you know what? You don't have to adapt to me. I gotta adapt to you. And, I gotta change the way I think about the situation because this is it's not
Yeah.
on you. It's not on you to change. It's on me.
Yeah, the most difficult people, our challenges are our teachers.
Yeah,
It's for us.
exactly.
It's for us to use them to our advantage to help shift us to a higher level, as we said, as
Yeah,
you said before, in terms of where you're at. I think each person's soul is not at the same level chronologically. Person could be the same age, but
yeah,
this,
yeah,
but a person's soul could have evolved through different lifetimes to a higher level and learn something that they pass on to a person like yourself or to me or anyone.
yeah.
If you could leave the audience with like one message, what would you like to say about your life, about the situation that you went through?
Uh, my spirit, you're gonna share those pictures, right? That I
Absolutely.
gave.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so after my last podcast, I didn't use my phone. I didn't use my camera. I went to bed that night, and the next day I went into my pictures to share something on Facebook, and I had these two images. And to me, it looks like either spirits. I mean, heaven. I mean, I don't know. They're
Yeah.
blowing my mind. And I want to leave you with is like we're each put here for a reason. You know, whether it's good or bad. The road you take is up to you. And that's what I believe. Uh, I was on a different road when I was younger, and as I got older, I realized that wasn't the right road. That I had to take a different road. So I did, and now my spirituality is in the last few days is born. I believe God is sending me messages. I believe God saved me because He wants me to do something. There's a mission He wants me to do. He's left me here to accomplish something, to do something for Him. And with all my heart, I tell Him every day, I'm ready. Now I'm ready. Like if I got sick, I told you about that. I bounced back from that. It's been a year since that happened. I'm strong now. I tell him, I post pictures, I tell him, I'm ready to go to war for you. Whatever you want me to do, I'm ready to do. Like I've grown that much in the last few months only. So
Absolutely.
we're all here, uh, I believe, to grow in a certain way. Uh, it's up to you to open your mind to that. You can't be closed minded and think, oh, I'm here and life is hard and it's God's fault. And no, it's not God's fault. It's your fault. It's your thinking that's keeping you back. Change your thinking. I changed my thinking. Trust me. I was thinking the wrong way too. Change your thinking. Open your mind. Accept God in your life. You know, I- it, what He's done for me lately is like what I feel is open my eyes, and I'm just I don't know. It's hard to explain that.
I understand. Regardless of where your endpoint is of saying your gratitude towards what you've experienced, I want to
Right.
thank you for your inspiration that you
Yeah.
shared and the courage it is to go through experiences like you have and be able to reflect back on what was and what is, and the
Yeah.
support you
Exactly.
have, and the support that you have of terms of spiritual world supporting you and not being
Yeah.
a victim of circumstances and taking the horse by the reins and going forward.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe in that.
yeah,
Like that happened, whatever, and
yeah.
you
If
know,
so,
yeah,
yeah.
you got to accept what happened and deal with it.
If
That's why I
somebody
moved on.
wants if somebody wants to reach out to you,
I'm
like in
on
terms?
Facebook.
All
I'm
right.
on Facebook, Frank Milazzo. Uh, I opened my, you can contact me now. Reach out to me, and I'd appreciate whatever input you have, or if you have any questions for me. If I can help you, I'll try to help you, you know. I'm growing every day, so if I can help you, I will, you know.
All right. On that note, I'll thank you so much, Frank, for joining me today, and God bless.
Adam, this was great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.